Welcome back in, everybody. This is Pro Football Plus. I'm Ben Parker. We're talking the New York Giants tonight. We are loaded. I mean, absolutely loaded, wall to wall. We're loaded with panelists, too. There are five of us on the show tonight. Heck yeah. I am so excited to have all these people on. Shane is back in the house, as always, the Iron Man. He's feeling real rough, so we're going to limit his talking tonight, but appreciate him being on. Austin, as always, is here on as well. Really appreciate him being on. You know those guys. Yusef Marshall, most of you probably remember, he was a part of this show at its origin, had to move on to some bigger and better things, but he's back tonight. Yusef, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me back, brother. I miss you guys.
Yeah, look,
It's always good having
check out real quick, because I may forget at the end. Yusef, just tell everybody real quick where else they can find you and yours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They call me Mr. U on all the socials. Our Thursday night show is That Thursday Thing, or T3 as we affectionately call it. Every Thursday night, 7 p.m. EST. We got some assorted podcast brand shows out there on YouTube and, of course, on your socials. You can find us pretty much anywhere. So thanks for listening and watching.
All right, Yusef, excited to have you on board. And some of you do and don't know Jess. So, Jess Saban, welcome aboard, man. Huge Giants fan. Been a part of the In the Flat podcast for 2, 3 years now. I forget. I was part of that at one time, moved on as well. So, Jess, real quick, tell everybody hello and maybe where they can find some of your material as well, or maybe they can find it in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ben. It's good to see you again. You can we're looking to get the In the Flat podcast back up and running. Scheduling's been a little tough for the crew over there, but hopefully that'll be coming back towards late spring or so. You can find me on X at Jess_Saban, and just look up In the Flat podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you want to find it.
Love it. That's with Tony Keel and Jordan Schultz. Everybody does a great job over there. They'll be back up soon here in a few weeks, up and running on a whole bunch of stuff. All right, look, Giant stuff is here tonight. You can see the grades up here. We've got my grades right here on this stack for the offense, right here for the defense. Okay. Shane's grades right here for the offense and for the defense. Okay. Yusef's and Jess's again. We're not going to dwell on these grades necessarily tonight. They are here for you, the audience, to just kind of feast on. Some of us will be high on a player, some of us low, some of us just grade on a higher curve. Some of us really appreciate one attribute that a player puts out there while recognizing that the player isn't a whole player. Others obviously look at that guy and say, nope, not for me. Okay, so there's all kind of spectrums here. You, the audience, are welcome to please look at all those grades tonight. Our focus, number one, is going to be what do we like about this team and this roster? What's a good building block moving forward into 2025 and maybe even beyond? And then after that, we're going to go back around and talk about what's the problem? What needs a little bit of fix? And the Giants fans, you probably know it. We're going to talk about it tonight. And then after that, 3 round mock draft for the New York Giants. Yusef will be the general manager for tonight, making all the final decisions. And I'm excited about all of it. Austin, I'm actually going to start with you tonight, man. You're on the bottom of the screen here. Go ahead and give us one thing, offense or defense, that you like about this roster. It could be a certain player or a position group.
I don't mean to offend our Giants fans here tonight, but there's not too much to like. But I have to say, I think there's a really nice base of receivers here. You've obviously got your star in Malik Neighbors. I really think Darius Slayton has a role in this offense moving forward. He is a really solid deep threat still. They missed on Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm ready to leave him out to dry, but Jalen Hyatt maybe can come in with some sort of a gadget role in the future here. I think there's a nice base. There needs to be another at least two role players injected into this receiving core, but it's got a nice kind of starting point.
Love the Neighbors thing. We all here love Neighbors. You can see it on the grades. Everybody loves Malik Neighbors. And then Slayton with the speed thing. And yeah. All right. Jess, I'm going to come straight to you now. What's something else here on the team that you like that you really feel good about moving forward?
Yeah, I was gonna say Neighbors, but I'm gonna spread the love around a little bit. I'm gonna go Tyrone Tracy. I know a lot of Giants fans were absolutely devastated that Saquon left. I think a lot of that was more actually about the fact of who he went to rather than that he left, as a whole. But even though Tracy came in as a bit of an older prospect, he didn't have a lot of carries under his belt in his time in college because he actually was a receiver and then before moving to running back towards the end of his college career. So he's got some fresh legs despite being a little bit older. And we saw flashes that he can come in, and he's not Saquon, but very few players are. And I think he's a very solid running back piece that maybe you get more of a big bruiser this up free agency, draft, or whatever, but I think he's a great building block for them moving forward.
Youssef, what you like, man? It's your team. Tell us.
Well, I can't pick anything that's been said already, so I'll try to move around that. I'm bouncing between two things here. One, I really like Theo Johnson. When he came in, I kind of felt like he would be. I was hoping he'd be almost a Bavaro Shockey kind of guy, tall, big hands. I felt like he'd be a bruiser, somebody who would block, but also be able to catch passes. Initially, when he came in, his first 6 games didn't look like that, but I didn't lose faith, and he came on to be one of the most consistent guys, maybe the most consistent tight end that we have on the team. Been a contributor. I like how 2025 is going to be looking where he's concerned, and then we got some guys that are on the Andrew Thomas, and then of course Dexter Lawrence. Some guys that are mainstays. We need to have that when you're in the process like we are. You need to have some guys that are going to be there. They're going to be solid at the positions, and start building on top of that, like Austin alluded to. So we got some work ahead of us, but I'm not jumping off of a building right now. I like what I see in some of the small sample sizes. So
agreed. Listen, Theo Johnson surprised me when I saw him. Years ago, I thought, hey, maybe he makes an NFL roster. No, listen, he's producing, man. I like what maybe he can bring in the future, and I like the old school Bavaro reference, man. That's way back in the day. All right, I love it. All right, Shane, give it to us, man. What do you like about this?
Well, Yusuf hit it kind of at the very end right there, but I think Dexter Lawrence, I think the defensive line has a chance to be much better and much improved in this next year. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. I think if you get those guys together, it's not going to be Super Bowl Giants D line, but you have some pieces, you have some elements to where you can mix and match and kind of push them defensively. Unfortunately, kind of like Austin said, I mean, when you look over this roster, the four things that the four of us have mentioned might be the only bright spots. So it makes it hard going into the next year to find out where you're going to attack. I'm one of the people, I'm even lower on Malik Nabers than a lot of people. Number 2 in targets and top 10 in drops. I think some of that does have to do with quarterback play, but I think he has the ability to step up. Hopefully he has an even better year next year.
Yeah, obviously still a work in progress, even though the talent is through the roof. I'm going to highlight Tyler Nubin here, okay? I don't always get to be right, but I got to be right on Nubin here. I loved Nubin coming out of the draft, man. Oh, my gosh. I was telling not first round good, but I was telling everybody who would listen, early second round, please grab this guy. I really, really, really like him. And I'm not always right. Wrong a lot. I got to be right on Nubin. I still want to see him do better in pass coverage. I think he still has a long way to go to really sharpen up his pass coverage. Man, you talk about a guy who's flexible and can drop down into that running game and really produce a shutdown and still give you a chance in pass coverage. After 1 year, I really love Nubin, so I like where he's going. I obviously gave him the lowest grade out of the group here, so everybody else obviously likes him too. I like Tyler Nubin. Hopefully he keeps developing, doesn't kind of hit a standstill or a wall there, but really, really enjoy him coming out of Minnesota, first-year player as well. All right, Austin, we're rolling it back to you, man. We hate to be negative, but we want to properly assess this roster here so we can draft a little bit better, do a little bit better in the offseason. Give us something that could definitely use some upgrading, man.
There's the obvious quarterback, but I don't think that's an interesting conversation to have. So I'm going to move somewhere that not enough people are talking about, and that's the DB room. Obviously, we've mentioned Tyler Nubin and how he's been a hit, but I mean, looking at Shane's grades there, man, it's rough. Like
it is rough.
It just D's down the board, and then Youssef also has 4 D's. Like I'm somewhere around there as well with my grades. Deonte Banks, young guy, can potentially improve over the next few years, but you need a guy. And potentially going to be in position to grab one at 3, hopefully, but if not, it needs to be a priority for this team.
Yeah, look, totally agree. You can see all the red we're getting here from two people, but even this orangish color, though, this ain't good. Ain't a whole lot of greens going here. All right, I like Newman, I like Phillips in the slot, but listen, Giants could use a cover guy back there, at least one, if not two, between draft and free agency. They could use it. So 100,000% agree. I think all Giants fans would that they could use an upgrade somewhere in the secondary, more than one spots. Jess, coming back to you, man. Give us something else here. I'm sure you agree on the secondary, but give us something else you'd love to see fixed if possible during this offseason.
Yeah, I think the Giants' big issue in the secondary is that they got so much youth there. I mean, Adoree Jackson's a free agent. He was like the oldest guy there. Cordell Flott's going to be up for a contract, but he's still on his rookie deal. Everybody's there. My big concern is the defensive line outside of Dexter Lawrence. Elijah Chapman is a nice story. I think he was a UDFA. They found him, and all of a sudden he had some flashes, but really isn't the guy you're going to have in there consistently. Nunez Rocha has underperformed. So there are going to be a bunch of. This is a great year to need that defensive tackle to put alongside Dexter Lawrence, because we can't have Dexter Lawrence being in there for 80% of snaps. It's just the amount of punishment on his body. I mean, we could already see, he had like his first real major injury this year that they just shut him down for the back half of the season there. So if they can, target a guy, maybe even at 3, if they stay there, this is a great defensive tackle draft. I forget who said it, but one of the main analysts is like, there's like 12 to 14, just day one starters at defensive tackle alone in this draft. Never mind, some big defensive ends that maybe they could move over, be flexible with, but they really need to be able to stop the run, and you have to be able to do that without your main guy out there. It can't just be one guy.
I would love to see them put another defensive tackle next to Lawrence as well. And it is a good draft for defensive linemen all across the board through probably 3 rounds. I think there's a lot of good things to be had depending on what specifically you need and what you're after there. So I like that. Yusef, we've talked about the defense a lot, needing fixing up. What else do you want to try to fix up on this team, man?
First off, I totally agree with what we said about the defensive players. The majority of them are guys that I think they had enough time. There's a few exceptions, but I think they had enough time to kind of show what they can do. And most times people play their best. They're really good. They play their best in times of adversity. And we see some guys that just kind of they didn't show anything during this rough time. And I think that weighs on the coaching staff. So I'm with that. I have a big concern about the O-line situation. I know that GVR is going to be a free agent. I doubt very highly he's going to be coming back, unless he's coming back as a mentor, and that can't be for a lot of money. For me, I think JMS at center, I was high on him coming into his draft, and he let us down. He didn't show up.
Facts.
So I think I'm not going to say that we're going to try to unload him, but he has to be pushed at that position. In regards to Evan Neal, my guy from T3, he's a big Alabama fan. He apologizes to me almost every week because we got Evan Neal. But honestly, him going to guard, it's an experiment if that happens. And it's still an experiment. It's going to happen later on in the offseason, not now, not around draft time. So we got to figure out what's going to happen there. We got to get a guard in the draft, bottom line. John Runyon is another guy veteran-wise, fantastic. But we need some guys that are going to be dogs out here. And I just don't see it outside of Andrew Thomas, and maybe Smith can kind of turn it around. We got to get O-line guys. So if we are deciding to not get a quarterback, we don't like them, and we're going to drop down, I see some guys on the O-line that I would love to have on this team. We probably need to go heavy O-line in this entire draft. I don't see how we get around it.
Yeah, you're talking me and Shane's language there. We love the offensive line, man. I don't know. We'll see as we go through this draft what's sitting there at each pick and what our personal recs are. But, yeah, love any upgrades we can get here on this offensive line. Okay, Shane, lay it on us, man. We've already hit 3 very large groups, right? So you're welcome to just double down or move on to something else, or even maybe pinpoint a specific player. You just really say, hey, we've got to fix this.
Well, in this case, I'm going to double down on exactly what Yusef said. I mean, Austin talked about my grades for the defensive backs, but on a whole, I thought the offensive line was one of the worst in the NFL this year. I think other than Andrew Thomas, you don't have a starter in that group. Uh, I agree with Yusuf. My link though is I would probably look center over guard to start. Um, I think there's a lot of tweeners in this draft where some guys are going to try to elevate themselves to offensive tackle, but they're probably better off inside. I've thought for a long time that offensive tackle in the NFL is the biggest unicorn position. Um, it's you need to be just an absolute freak, speed wise, size wise, every condition you're looking for at the NFL Combine. That's where you get a chance to see some of these guys, and I think you can turn an okay offensive tackle into a guard. Evan Neal, perfect example. I think if he makes that move, he becomes serviceable as a guard. I don't think he is as an NFL tackle. And there's a bunch of guys this year I think that you can get later on in the draft, as Yusuf said, maybe stockpile some guys in the back half. Uh, a guy I'd look for who, you know, when we talk about the Giants, although the New York Giants, as Jess knows, you know, they do play out of New Jersey. They are kind of the tri-state area. Um, but Tom Perry, he's a guard. He's a tackle right now out of Middlebury, a Division III player. He got a lot of press at the Shrine Bowl, but this is a guy that's got excellent size, excellent strength. He's undersized height wise, but he would be a guy I'd pick late in the draft, play at guard, and be prepared for him to start for me for a couple of seasons.
No, I love it. We'll go check him out as well here. Maybe not during the show, but after the show, I'll go back, double down on him as well. I like everything you guys are putting out there. Okay, so I would love. Well, this secondary is rough. There's a couple of guys here I like, but as a whole, to me, this is a rough secondary to be trying to work with on the whole. The defensive line, I love Lawrence. I really like Brian Burns, and to me, Thibodeaux can still contribute in specialist situations, but I would love to kind of mix in a defensive tackle there. And then the offensive line is pretty rough, man. I think you guys are dead on that. I love Andrew Thomas personally, but after that, it gets really rough, even though they've tried. I liked John Michael Schmitz, too, coming out of the draft. I was like, heck yeah, give me that guy. It hasn't worked out, so offensive line is rough. Austin mentioned the quarterback right from the get-go. Everybody knows about that. Going to have to do something with quarterback at some point, but we'll talk about when and where. And then I would love, Austin mentioned this, too, earlier in the episode, I would love to do something at wide receiver just to kind of continue to upgrade that to a little bit, too. Can't fix everything in a single off season. We realize that, but these are some of the things that we are going to work on. All right, Yusuf, we're coming back to you, man. It's time for the fun part of the program, the mock draft. 3 rounds. We're not going to go 7 rounds, but 3 rounds. Yusuf, go ahead and tell us while I'm opening up the simulator. Just tell us you can talk about the first pick that we have or the first 3 rounds. Just give us like 1 minute, minute and a half here of what you're kind of hoping to accomplish, knowing we probably can't even accomplish everything, right? But just kind of what you would like to see without mentioning specific players here.
Copy that. And don't go to Giants.com and get a team needs deadline. Just listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. All right. So we need actually 7 things to go on. We need quarterback, tight end, right guard. I'm still confident about that. The O-line situation, interior especially, cornerback, wide receiver 2, and defensive lineman to go with Dexter Lawrence, like you alluded to earlier. What I'm hoping in the first 3 picks is if we really, really like a quarterback, that we go ahead and get the one that we want without having to trade up to do it. We need to amass more picks because we have a lot of gaps. We just highlighted how many, like 900 tonight so far already that we need. We need to have picks for that. We can't rely on UDFAs to fill those gaps. They may help, but it's a flash in the pan. You never know. So we got to take talent where we can find it. So we need some picks for that, and we don't have enough. I think we have 8, either 9 picks. I think 9 picks total right now, something like 9 or 10. So we don't have a whole lot. So I'm hoping that we get the quarterback. If it's not the one that everybody thinks we should be getting, there's one in the second round that I like a lot. After that, the quarterback, some kind of O-line help, preferably O-line, and maybe even a top flight cornerback if it's possible. I know a few that are up there in the first couple of rounds, but ideally those 3 areas give me some confidence because right now we're depleted at cornerback, especially. all the guys we had in the list, it's not working. So so cornerback, quarterback, hopefully somebody at either guard or interior O-line guy.
All right. I love it. So here's how this is going to work. Yusef is the boss tonight. He's the man. He's got the final decision-making power here, okay? But he's got an all-star cast of people here assembled to make recommendations on what we think should happen. And listen, when it comes to your personal recs, you don't necessarily have to go with the flow. If you've got a player that you just really believe in at the spot that's available, man, trot it out, okay? And Yusef will take it into consideration. But we'll each make our recommendations here, our suggestions here, and then Yusef will get the final word on that. You are welcome to make different suggestions, completely different, or just double down on what you've already heard because you agree with it, you like it. Let's go ahead and get started here. I'm using the PFF mock simulator tonight. There are several that I like, but we're using PFF tonight. So give me 1 second here. Let's get this thing started. Travis Hunter going first overall to the Titans, so he's unavailable. And then Cam Ward at the quarterback spot for the Dolphins heading off to the Browns. That sets the table for us, the New York Giants, to make our pick. I will move anywhere you guys want to move to. Just try to make it quick, okay? We can look at the top of the board right here. I'm happy to go to a specific position if you want. Take a look at what's there. But Austin, we'll go ahead and get you running first here. What's your recommendation, man?
This is the worst way the draft could start because these are the top two guys on the Giants draft board, clearly. Abdul Carter, there's a very good chance he goes in these first two, and one of these guys falls in our lap, but that's just not how it unfolded for us. So my instant knee-jerk reaction is try and trade down, but in this scenario, I'm assuming we called, nobody answered, so we're kind of sticking and picking here. And at this point, I think you do just have to kind of go best player available. I know edge isn't a huge need, but Abdul Carter is a beast. And Brian Burns and Abdul Carter is going to be a nasty combo with Kayvon Thibodeau coming in on third downs. So I think you go best player available in this situation and grab Abdul.
Okay, look, I got a whole list of players that I want the Giants to grab, okay? I'm going to go ahead and insert my little opinion here, and then we'll get to Jess because I'm curious to see what Jess and Shane have to say about this. Abdul Carter, for me, is just too good to pass up. I know it ain't none. It's none of what the Giants need. It ain't quarterback. It ain't cornerback. It ain't wide receiver 2. It's not offensive line. And there are guys at all those positions who are good that I really like. But when I got Abdul Carter sitting there, man, I just can't pass him up. I can't do it. So that's going to be my rec as well is I'm going to recommend Abdul Carter. Okay, Jess?
Yeah, I think I'm a little biased here. I actually don't want the Giants to draft Abdul Carter. Mainly because of the Saquon Barkley situation. Abdul Carter is a massive, massive Eagles fan. He has been posting on Twitter. He's been speaking to the media about how he wants to be an Eagle, how he's rooting for the Eagles, how he wants to follow the Eagles, like all this sort of stuff. If I'm the Giants, like it's not like if Tennessee took him, where maybe he would just be fine with that. I don't want to risk losing another star from Penn State to go to Philly and then decimate us because we just couldn't come to an agreement on a contract extension. As Austin said, I think if this happened, I think the best case scenario would be to trade back. If I'm the Giants here, I think the best player available to me would be Mason Graham, the defensive lineman. I don't love Mason Graham's lack of strength. He doesn't have the best build and arm length to get around. He doesn't have that kind of pop, but he's a phenomenal technician. Put him next to Dexter Lawrence, like Dexter Lawrence eat up those double teams as he's been doing, and have Mason Graham go one-on-one. Other than him, I think Shedeur is probably the direction the Giants would actually go. My preference would be Mason Graham.
All right. I like Mason Graham as well. Mason Graham reminds me of the NBA player, Nikola Jokic, right? Who doesn't look like he should be any good, but he is. He doesn't really fit any of the, length, height, speed, recs, right? But there he is. So I like Mason Graham as well. Shane, hand it to us, man.
I'd start off with I agree with Austin because this plays out a lot like the Patriots draft we talked about. Abdul Carter is going to be a piece you can get other people interested in. I've stated a couple of times already, not a big Cam Ward or Sanders fan, so I don't think you waste the pick in that one. Austin mentioned that you have some pieces that you can move around as a wide receiver. We've talked about it before. McMillan is an absolute freak. And, for me, it's awful high to pick a wide receiver, but I don't think anyone matches up with him. I would look him very hard. But if it's me, we've talked about the need for offensive linemen, the need for a leader. I would go with Will Campbell on this one. You get an early tackle, you can scratch that off the board, and then we can make some moves from there. But I think, like Austin and Jess have already mentioned, I think if the draft plays out the same way as it has for us, this is the time to build draft picks and look for somebody that wants to make a move up and let them dip their toe in the waters that we don't want to play in.
All right, Youssef, well, you got a whole bunch of recommendations here, but none of it matters. All right, don't respond to any of it unless you just want to. The only opinion that matters here is yours. All right, so you got Abdul Carter, Tedoroa McMillan, Mason Graham, Will Campbell, trade down. We're not actually trade down tonight, but you're welcome to say that would be your first rec if that's what you think. But then go ahead and make a pick, man. Drop it on us.
All right, I wish we could trade down right now. That would be awesome. I'm not the biggest fan of Abdul Carter. It's not because he's not talented. Some of it is just, I think it's just my intuition. I just kind of feel like this wouldn't be a good, I don't even know why. I don't have any facts to back it up. But I love Mr. Mason Graham. He's from Michigan, go blue. So, I'm already partial. But for me, when I look at what I have in front of me and what my little board looks like over here, I'm going Will Campbell here. We need help on the O-line. We need to get that resolved. I mean, whoever's coming in, we don't want to have them come in a similar way that a certain former Giants quarterback came in, had new O-line guys out there, and they kind of left him to die, literally almost. So I want to give the new quarterback, whoever it is, whether it's a vet coming in to be the bridge or the rookie quarterback that we get in the draft, presumably, want him to have some time in the pocket to not, get crushed. So we need help over there. And Will Campbell's, he has what it takes. People are concerned about his strength, but I don't think it's a big deal. I've seen enough of the LSU games to know that he can handle himself out there at tackle. I think he maybe has some versatility as well, playing different positions, but I think he's a tackle at best. So I like him here. I'm taking Will Campbell.
All right, so Will Campbell it is. I'll click the button in a second. Okay. But Youssef, we've got our tackle, okay? So we've got our kind of bookend tackles now. Campbell working with Andrew Thomas. We move to our second round pick here in a second, and I'll click the button. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Pick 34, okay. Having already done an offensive lineman without getting into player specs specifically here. What are you kind of hoping to do? Do you want to double down on offensive line with that second round pick, or do you want to move over to the defense and do something over there? What you got in mind here?
Yeah. Well, initially my thought was, okay, if the quarterback that I want is there, I want to grab him. But at the same time, we already highlighted how many things we have that are needs on this team. So for me, we got to go BPA almost as much as possible because we have so much work to do. And I love us to turn around and have a Washington Commanders kind of turnaround, but it may not be in the card. It's possible, but you just never can tell with this. So as much talent as we can get, we need to get it. So I'm thinking either the quarterback that I wanted or maybe cornerback or perhaps some D-line help.
All right. Love it. Austin, I'll come to you in a second. I want to give you a second to actually see the board here. So I'm going to move around a little bit, let everybody in the audience kind of see what's here. These are PFF's top-rated players still left, okay? So out of the 8, 9 guys, second round here, we've moved on. We just missed out on Colston Loveland, Alec Iomanor, Trey Amos, Darius Alexander. Those guys just did go off the board. I'm going to move around a little bit here. At quarterback, it's Gabriel and Milroe. When we move over to a wide receiver, it's Besh, Restrepo, Higgins, Bond, Johnson, the speed guys down there. I'm going to roll over to our defensive backs here because we talked about that being a need. I've got Xavier Watts, Siobhan Rebel, Darian Porter, the speedster, Azariah Thomas out of Florida State. And then we said offensive line, right? So I'm going to roll over here to offensive line. Go ahead and grab that tackle spot as well. I've got Connerly there, Big Booker, the guard, Ursery, Jackson, Williams. Austin, I can go back to anywhere you want to go, but go ahead and tell us what you're thinking here.
Go back to QB real quick. I want to see who was on there.
Quarterback coming up. There it is.
Okay, Jackson Dart's on the board. He's my rec. I
Okay.
love Jackson Dart. He's my guy. It's really a no question to ask. Just rip Jackson Dart here. If you're not a Jackson Dart guy, I think Tyler Booker on the board is a great value too at guard. So those are my two.
Okay. I'm actually fine with both of those. I like Dart, don't love him, but you're going to be stretched to find quarterbacks in this draft, right? And the Giants need to do something. So if that's a direction, I'm totally happy with that. Jess, what you thinking here, man?
So I actually have some different thoughts on how the Giants should be approaching free agency in the draft than it appears the rest of the team here does. I actually don't want the Giants to target offensive line in the draft. I think we have shown a distinct lack of ability to develop these guys, especially with Shane and Dable's jobs on the line. I think that's something they should be targeting in free agency. I actually was very pleased with Jermaine Illuminor's performance at right tackle this year. And honestly, prior to when the injuries started piling up, the Giants offensive line, at least according to PFF and some others, was grading out to be at least league average, if not even slightly above league average in terms of like run blocking. Still struggled a bit with the pass blocking at times, but was significantly improved compared to others. So I want the Giants. We currently don't even have a right guard on the roster because Van Roten's a free agent. I want them to go out, target Telvin Jenkins, Will Freeze, the big name everyone's going to be going after, Trey Smith out of Kansas City. Get one of those vets, resign Roan to be a backup, a veteran backup. I think the Giants need depth on the offensive line, and maybe we target that a bit towards the back half of the draft. But my ideal situation here would be based on the fact that we went offensive line here, target a Tyleik Williams, a TJ Sanders here. As we've all kind of, I think, would agree, football is won in the trenches. So I think they should just double up on this here. Realistically, a guy like Jalen Walker, I would just say take him, but there's no way he falls to the second round. That guy is going to be drafted mid-first at the latest, probably. I think a team like Atlanta is going to be targeting him. But go TJ Sanders or Tyleik Williams. I would lean a bit more towards Tyleik here, but that's just me.
All right. Defensive tackle there for Jess. Shane, give it to us, man. What you feeling?
Yeah. I go DB, Darian Porter out of Iowa State. 6'4", 200 pounds, runs well. If you want to try to help that defense, give a standalone corner, let him play against some of those guys that he's going to face in the East. It'll give you a body. I agree with Jess. I think the coaching staff has been terrible offensive line wise for a great number of years. And I don't know if there's a solution on either side of that. But I think Porter is a grab here. I agree with Austin right off the bat. I think if Jackson Dart is there, he's your pick. Ole Miss quarterback. It's worked out for the Giants before. I think that there'll be some rumors about that with inside the Mara's house. But I think Jackson Dart's the top pick. If you don't go that way, I really like Porter. Played against some tough offenses at Iowa State.
All right. My turn, Yusef. If Jalen Walker were here, I'd just eat him up. All right. I think Justin's right. I don't think there's any chance he's going to be here. So I'm going to pretend he's just not there. Okay. I'm cool with offensive line. I love plugging in Tyleik Williams here, big old run stopper to go right in with all the Giants kind of guys that can get after it on the quarterback side of things. I love that. I love getting Jackson Dart here because if you don't believe in those top two quarterbacks sitting up there and you just want to do kind of a low profile thing, you can still get a quarterback in the next year or two if Dart isn't looking like he's developing. Okay. So I like all of that. I'm 100% on board with it. I'm actually going to make a different recommendation just for the heck of it, just to give you more to think about. Siobhan Ravel here is a guy I really like, coming off an injury, but I really like him out of ECU. He's very aggressive. He's got the potential to move over to safety, but he is your wide CB. He can cover. I don't know yet how good he will be at one-on-one cover in the NFL, but you still talk about a guy who has potential and talent there. I think it's first-round talent. Very aggressive guy. Really like him. He's got the size as well to produce there coming out of East Carolina. So Siobhan Ravel, even though coming off the injury, would be my recommendation. All right, Yusef, the 2 cents are all in, but it's all up to you, man. You're the only opinion that matters, so lay it on us.
Well, you guys are brilliant, number one.
Thank you.
But for me, my quarterback is sitting there, the one that I wanted. You guys already looked at him already, so that's Jackson Dart. Please put him on the board.
All right. There he is.
Thank you.
It is done. It is done. Did you even – I know you listened to us, but did you ultimately already know what you were going to do here?
Yeah, I said you guys are brilliant. I wasn't paying you guys any attention. I said Darth Vader. I blinked out and went into a world that you guys haven't been invited to yet. But yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I'm totally on board with it. We'll make the Dart click here in just a second. So that would give us Will Campbell at bookend tackle. It would put us give us a chance at quarterback for the next couple of seasons with Jackson Dart. And we haven't touched the defense yet. But again, you cannot fix everything in one offseason, even through free agency and the draft when you have this many holes. But we are working on it. Okay. So Yusef, go ahead and drop a line on us here before we even see who's available at pick 65. What would you kind of sort of like to maybe be able to do with this third round pick?
Like I alluded to earlier, my eyes are solely on defense right now.
Okay.
So I'd love to see who's at corner. Love to see who's on the D line. That's where my eyes are at. So right now, if anything doesn't transpire there, then I have a backup plan. But right now, D line or cornerback is where my eyes are for this third pick, number 65.
All right, let's click on Jackson Dart and let's fish around, see what's available here. So here's our picks. We got Campbell and Dart. Here's the top 8 or so that PFF has available: Ursery, Sampson, Morrison, Higgins, Henderson. I'm gonna start fishing around with some positions, and then I'll go to Austin. Okay, so let's look defense first. Like our boss is saying here, in the secondary, we've got Morrison, Castro, Winston, Hairston, Eamon, Worry, some of the guys sitting right there. You move on to defensive interior here. Deion Walker, Jordan Phillips sitting there. Move on to the edge group, see what's there. I've got Elijah Roberts, Rucker, Robinson sitting there still on the edgers. Let's, for the heck of it, let's click on linebackers. I've got Paul and Bassa sitting here. And let's move over to the offensive side. Wide receivers, we've got Higgins, Royals, Williams, 2 speedsters here in Bond and Johnson. Trey Harris, solid guy there out of Ole Miss. And let's look at offensive line again, just for the heck of it. Ursery, Williams, Trapillo, Millen, Savanea. All right, Austin, take us anywhere you want to go, then give us a recommendation, man.
Yeah, go ahead and flip to those corners again, please. I think there was a name on there that I was a little shocked that I think I saw. Yeah, no, Ben, I think you write down Benjamin Morrison on the card and run it up to the podium.
All right, done deal. I will ask you real quick, because there are several guys in this draft who are injured. I recommended Ravel, who's coming off of an injury. Does the Morrison injury bother you at all, or you feel like if the team doctors have looked at him and they're okay with him, that you go ahead and keep moving here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have your doctor give their opinion and everything, but assuming everything checks out fine, Benjamin Morrison is a potential elite corner in the making. He has a lot of traits that I love, and so I think as long as you trust the knee or the injury, and then the player to mentally put in the work and come back from it, those are the kind of 2 things that have to. A lot of people forget about the mental part of an injury. Like it takes a toll on you mentally, and you have to trust the mental aspect of recovery as well as the physical. So as long as that checks out, I love Benjamin Morrison.
And I'm the same way on Ravel in the last round. I'm like, hey, if our team has looked at him and we're comfortable, we're doing it. I mean, you have to give him a few extra weeks to get back up to full speed, but we're doing it. If we like this guy, And a lot of folks, as they're sinking their teeth into the draft, there's 30, 40, 50 players who had severe injuries this year back in college football, and they are still getting into the swing of things. In some cases, that's why they miss Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl, or maybe even not fully showing up to do everything at the combine. So, Jess, where do you want to go, man?
So, I mean, guys like Morrison and Ravel, I mean, I watched Ravel at ECU. He's phenomenal, but as a Giants fan, similar to the offensive line, the development of our defensive backs has not been very good. And not add on to the injury. I mean, the Giants, I don't know if this is still the case, but there was a while where every single season the Giants would have all these piling up injuries. And the same statistic, there's been no team who suffered more injury since 2012 than the New York Giants. And that just kept adding up at year after year after year. Again, being that we didn't target this position just yet, I would suggest either probably defensive tackle. Dion Walker, the behemoth out of Kentucky, 6'7", 340 pounds. And the one position group that the Giants have been able to develop over the past 6-7 years is defensive tackle, is defensive line. He is unpolished, but oh my God, if anybody could polish him, if anybody could turn him into at the very least, decent starter, like kind of what the Eagles have with Jordan Davis, it's Andre Patterson, our defensive line coach. If not, if you're looking for someone who can be a bit more plug and play immediately, I would suggest Higgins, the wide receiver out of, Iowa State. I think it's Iowa State. Iowa State. He's another big body that the Giants will need. Good red zone threat. He's 6'3", but his wingspan is about 6'7". He's not the fastest guy, but he's a good route runner, and he can go up and win you some jump balls. But I think, that Dion Walker sitting there, that project for Patterson to mold, I think that's too good to pass up.
All right, there it is. Shane, give it to us, man.
So I like both selections by Jess and Austin. I really like Austin's. I think Morrison, without the injury, would have been early first round. I think this dropped him back and is going to let people make a run at him. I like Jess saying, when you just look at sheer size, if you can get him to play, that's going to be a weapon for your defense. I'm going to harken back to something that Austin and I had talked about before. If you had a chance to watch Arizona play, maybe you were looking at McMillan, maybe you caught some other people. You've talked about him as well, Ben, but Jonah Savaiinaea, I think big body. I think you take him early, you move him into guard, and I think if you play him there and you're trying to get your offensive line to wake up, this is a guy that you want first off the bus. He's going to play nasty. He's going to help make that run game even more powerful up front. And if you have a young quarterback, or if you're going to go with a free agent, you want him to have a big boy that he can tap on the back and say, okay, let's go to battle. And I think Jordan Savaiinaea is the one that you can make a move for.
All right. I like it. I like everything you guys are putting out there. Let me put in my 2 cents worth again, and then we'll drop it on you, Seth, for the final here. Listen, I like Savaiinaea. If we went that route, I'd be totally fine with it. I would like Cameron Williams along with that. Either one. I would like him. I even like Millam, but I don't like Millam as good as I like Savaiinaea or Williams. Okay, so I really like that. I'm going to drop in on the wide receivers. I would love to draft another wide receiver here, but I think I can do that in the 4th round. So when I look right here at this group, I like Higgins. I like Royals. Williams got the size. Bond and Johnson got the absolute speed. Trey Harris doesn't seem to quite have that top-end speed, but a pretty good polished receiver. I even like Torrey Horton, okay? But I figure 4th round, I like so many of these guys. I figure sitting here at 103, one of these guys I like is still going to be there. I draft somebody in the 4th round. So I'm going to go back to cornerback here. Give me 1 second. We'll pull it up. And I, too, am just going to drop in on Benjamin Morrison. I ultimately don't think he'll be here, but teams looking at this injury, they may drop him a little bit here. So I'm going to pretend like he is here, and I'm going to go ahead and make that my recommendation. It fits the defense that the general manager was looking for. And I do like Morrison if he is healthy, and I'm going to assume that he is. So that's my recommendation as well. Yusef?
And see your D-line guys, please.
Absolutely, man. Let's trot on over there. Defensive line coming up. I'll do defensive tackle first, and then I add on the edges. There we go.
So what happened to him? These are the tackles?
These are both the interior guys and the edge guys, all wrapped in one group here.
All right.
Who are you looking for?
I was looking for Collins.
Oh, the Texas kid?
Yeah.
He must have already gotten taken. Let's see if he disappeared here on us.
Alfred Collins out of Texas.
Yeah, there he
PFF
is.
typically has him going in the early to mid second.
Okay.
PFF is they've got a lot of rankings, but based on like, you know, if you're going off of Kuiper or any of those other big boards, PFF is graded out a little differently. So a lot of some guys are way higher rated, some guys are way lower rated.
Yeah, and that's true of all the mocks. So anyway, Collins went here to the Bengals, I think at 59, so he is already gone, Yusef. Sorry.
No worries. Let's go back to the cornerbacks.
All right. Bring him on up here.
All right. Yeah. I like the top two guys you got, but
okay.
ADP too. But let's go ahead and go with Morrison here. I mean, he's great on down and distance. He knows what he's doing. Great ball awareness. He got ball skills. He's great at closing in, so he has closing speed. So, I mean, we need that because I think one of the biggest things that we had a problem with our secondary was that middle of the defense was just left open all the time. So it's a linebacker issue as well, but the secondary they didn't show up a lot. We got exposed a lot. So this guy, I think, if he is healthy, like you guys alluded to, if he's healthy, we're really good to get him. So I'll probably do what Austin said and put his name on that card and race up there at 4.3 speed to get these guys the cards.
The neighbors up there with that card, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
really fast before they change their mind. Yeah.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. This is our draft. We're each going to get one more turn at this to just say what we like, how we feel about these three picks. Okay. Because again, I'm sure there's some Giants fans screaming at us. We didn't even pick a defensive lineman, right? I mean, out of all the guys in this draft, but I get it. You cannot fix everything in one draft. Okay. So, Austin, let's roll it back to you first. We're done here drafting. How you feeling ultimately big picture here?
I feel good. We got our quarterback that we're going to give, some time at hopefully to try and develop, but I like his talent. I think our third round pick is a home run as long as the health checks out and everything. You're obviously not going to draft him if that doesn't end up checking out, but I don't love the Will Campbell pick. I think we had some better options on the D line between Graham and Carter, but and I do think there are options for us on the offensive line, kind of like Jess was saying. But Will Campbell, I do think, is a good player. I don't think this is a letdown. I think we just kind of went a different way than how I would have approached it.
All right, fair enough. Jess, final thoughts here on the kind of the Giants and then this draft here.
Yeah, I'm not particularly thrilled with how things played out for us here. Like Austin said, I'm actually not that high on Will Campbell, especially for the Giants specifically, because Will Campbell's a left tackle. We already have that position set. I don't want to be drafting for depth at third overall. As I've said, I like Illuminor at right tackle, at least as a temporary fix. Maybe in the third round, you get like a Cam Williams out of Texas, a guy who is a right tackle to be a bit of depth there. But I would prefer us attack corner and offensive line in free agency. I think if we restructure Thomas, Lawrence, and Burns, that'll free up somewhere between $37 to $45 million. That'll put the Giants over $100 million total to spend in free agency. I think you can get some names, be it Reed at corner or Paulson Adebo at corner, Javon Holland at safety. I think you can plug in some holes there. And like I said earlier, for the interior offensive line, you got Freeze, Smith, Jenkins. You want to target center Ryan Kelly if he hits free agency. I would prefer we tackle defensive line here, get that depth, get that guy alongside Dexter Lawrence. If Jackson Dart's there, I think you take the flyer on him, especially if you don't go QB in round one. And then as much as I love Morris in there in the third round, I think, like you said, Ben, I don't think he's going to be there, especially if the health checks out. But I do love that pick, especially as a value, as a flyer there in the third, if this is actually how the board plays out.
Shane, we appreciate you working through all this tonight, man. So give us a final bit here on what you're feeling.
I think Austin and Jess really already hit it out of the park. The thing for me is I think Jackson Dart is the winner out of this situation. I think we all kind of hit on it. If it plays out the way it did for us in the beginning on the Giants, I move back and that first round pick becomes obsolete. It's going to build me off of what else I can move from, and maybe I move back into that situation. I think we kind of hit on a lot of those, and Jess mentioned one person like a Jalen Walker, like after the combine, and once this comes, like Philadelphia would never let him get out of the first round. He's fast. He went to Georgia. They're just going to draft him. Like that's what's going to happen out of this draft. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the late first round. I think, like Jess said, if you're the Giants and you decide you want to go free agency, then you might not take Will Campbell. But with what we have on the board, if Jackson Dart's around, I think he's a great pick. And I agree with them. I don't think Benjamin Morrison makes it that far, but if he does, you run up to there and take him with the team and start the next year.
Shane,
All
I
right.
got sorry,
Sorry,
Benjamin.
Jess. We're just out of time, man. We're up against the clock. I'm so sorry because I got a second show to get to. So I like this draft. This is really cool. Will Campbell does address a need. I'm going to swing him right over to right tackle. He's going to learn that. And listen, the Giants have struggled to develop players at multiple position groups. There's no question about it. I'm still going to take a swing at Campbell if I'm not really after one of the other guys. I think we all agree trading down would be great. So I wouldn't be surprised come draft night if we don't see that. If the quarterback, if the team isn't in love with one of the top two quarterbacks or he's just not there, don't be surprised to see him trade back. I'm cool with Jackson Dart. The only thing I will say, I would love for me and Youssef to go into the Morris box and tell them, hey, we're taking a swing at Dart, but don't be surprised if he's not developing in a year or two if we don't take another swing at another quarterback we really like. Don't stake our whole life's blood on Jackson Dart. It's, hey, he's here in the second round. We like him. He's going to give us a chance. We're going to try to develop him for the next couple of seasons. But, if our jobs are on the line here, maybe we get a little more aggressive in some different areas. But that's where I'm going to go here. I like this draft. I love the Morrison pick. I think that's a really good one there if he were available down there in the third round. Youssef, you get the final word, man. Drop it on us.
I know we're up against it, man, but I'll be brief as I can. Jackson Dart's better than Daniel Jones. The end.
You have a really high bar there, Youssef.
All right, Youssef, thank you for dropping the knowledge. Thank you for being in charge tonight. The fans, I'm sure, will let you know if they're really happy or, not really happy, but I enjoyed it. This has been great. Thank you all for the grades. Thank you for the perspectives from a really good group here, a really good, well-rounded room here. Really appreciate all of it. Everybody listening to the audience, we are going to be gone next week, so don't look for us to drop an episode next week, but 2 weeks from now, we'll be back in the building, hot and furious with NFL offseason stuff. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great one, and go Giants.